This is Matthew McConaughey.
Natalie Portman.
James Patterson.
Michael Ian Black.
And you are listening to
Five Questions
with Dan
Schawbel.
Alex, welcome to Five Questions.
Thank you very much for having me.
Who were your main influences on your work, and what do you think it is about your art that makes it unique and memorable?
Well, I have traditional comic book influences in my work, like Jack Kirby or John Romita, Neil Adams, Bernie Wrightson. These were all serious heroes of mine, George Perez. The list keeps going. But then, of course, my work would sort of veer off to look more like, say, traditional American illustration like Norman Rockwell. So there's a whole gamut of people that lead me towards where I adapt to painting as my main focus.
I love that. Yeah, so you were influenced, but you made it your own.
Well, there was also a strain of painted comics before I got in the field, and not nearly enough of that was focusing on traditional superhero stuff. So I saw an opening for myself to fit into.
That's really smart. What are your favorite comic book characters to draw and any non-comic book material?
Oh, well, I like to draw a lot of your sort of lead humdrum sort of hero types that are like your Captain America, Superman, Reed Richards. So basically all the boring old guys who are the elder statesmen in the room. For some reason, that's what I'm drawn to.
But they're cool. I mean, your latest graphic novel, Fantastic Four: Full Circle. Why do you decide to create it now? And what is your attachment to these characters?
Well, the Fantastic Four are such an important part of comics in terms of the creativity they brought into the field, in terms of the interplay between the characters being the most human behaviors ever seen at that time. And they're kind of the cornerstone of the Marvel Universe in terms of the most amount of character creation in the course of that book. Characters like Black Panther, the Inhumans, so many other characters introduced in that series. And there's a tone to the Marvel Universe that comes directly from the FF and establishing them. Plus, something that's special about the 60s is what I wanted to connect with. Even though it's a decade I was not around for, I wanted to somehow capture that spirit, and I would have to change my art style to achieve that, which is why a special project like the one I did with Full Circle needed to exist, just for having a housing for that kind of case to be made. And much of that is me feeling like, let's put this out there before you just see yet another sort of contemporization of this material, especially when it goes on to eventually film or television. And likely it may look like everything else that's produced, and you don't want that to be the case. There's something special there that needs to be identified, and that was my driving inspiration.
Marvel's first family, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's only maybe a few thousand of Fantastic Four #1s in existence. And so, but it's been done in movies, not really well. And so that's why a lot of people are kind of excited about Fantastic Four and the potential in the MCU and your work.
And technically this will be the fourth time they'll be at it. So let's hope that's the charm.
Absolutely. And what do you think about Web 3.0 and NFTs and how they'll create opportunities for you as an artist? And what are your plans for it?
Okay. Is this a standard question for people? Is that where this comes in?
No, I'm actually very involved in NFTs, especially on, VV and other platforms. And also, just at a higher level in business, Web 3.0 is starting to change and evolve, especially for creatives like yourself. So I'm curious about your perspective on it, if you're getting involved. Any thoughts?
Well, let's make very clear, it should always be known about me, is that I don't use a computer. I handwrite out emails or dictate them to then be written. I don't type. And so I've never surfed the internet. I've never seen social media. I've never seen Facebook. I have these things technically because my agent has set up accounts for me and Twitter and all that stuff. So I don't know anything about what you just described, really. I don't know about Web 3.0 at all. And as far as NFTs go, the closest I ever got was agreeing to have my work be turned into some kind of NFT that people could access that's in that sphere, but it wouldn't have been for purchase. And my work would have been just sort of a catalog of everything I've done. And the announcement of that even going out there caused people to launch after me as if I was burning down forests myself. That's all I know about NFTs is apparently it's extremely divisive.
Yes, well, now it can be, but that's so funny. Like something digital causing like a forest fire or something. It seems pretty
I had
opposite.
so many people coming after me to complain and say like, not you too. And it's like, I haven't done anything. I literally have done nothing in this world. And I'm being called out as if I've contributed to whatever is supposed to be. I believe anything going on with whatever my part would have been was not going to be, what do they call it? It's on the blockchain. So therefore it drain any resources or something like that. But I'm not the person to explain that. All I know is that I caught hell for it.
I think it's fascinating that you're so disconnected from technology. I even wonder, like, that's probably been good for your health in some ways. But at the same time, as a creative, as an artist, there is pressure. And I know this as well. I've written books, I've done a lot of things to promote your own work too, using social media. So it's like, I almost don't wish I was using these networks, but I kind of feel like I have to.
And of course, I'm somewhat in a hypocritical end because I'm benefiting by promotion of my stuff via social media because I've got people doing that. I just have no engagement with it. So the only difference is it's misleading in terms of when people assume there's real contact with you, there absolutely isn't with me because I'm not there. But then again, any social media aspect of my work is putting out the work, putting out imagery, sharing whatever is info on my related projects. But as far as you're not getting my opinions of things, you're not getting any kind of back and forth with me. And I know from meeting people in person who have talked to me about like, oh, I follow you and I wrote you this, you must have seen it. Like, not me. And it's unfortunate because I can kind of have my cake and eat it too when it comes to saturation in that world without actually being immersed in it.
Yeah, because of your art, people want that connection. But at the same time, like I can imagine if you're not, having to post on all the social media and you have other people do it, you kind of can just focus on doing the work that can speak for itself. So,
yeah, my world
very
seems
interesting
tough as it is, but I can't understand when people spend the amount of time that they do online, how that doesn't pull away from everything else that maybe you needed to get done. And I don't know how the balance of it works. Obviously, something else has to fall away if you're going to be in that space.
Exactly. And what's your best piece of career advice?
Bet on the idea of devoting the first 20 years of your career to working as hard as you can so you can coast on the rest of your career.
It's funny, but true.
If you spend your 20s and 30s working as hard as you can, that's where you can achieve what you can basically rely upon later. If you keep putting it off, you're not going to have the same energy level in your 40s or 50s, as I know perfectly well, as you did in your 20s. So, no time like the present. Put off having a personal life for as long as possible. That's my advice.
You know what? I think that is really good advice. I always say in my 20s, I like burn myself out. But my mentality back then was, I need to sacrifice today for a better tomorrow, a better future. And it's just not going to come easy. And it takes a long time to build a platform to do work. Like a book is in itself is a few years of work. Sometimes, as you know, it doesn't pop out overnight. And if it does, there's editing. So yeah, I think that's really good advice. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Not at all. Thank you for having me.